This program is brought to you by the Vegetarian Society of Hawaii, a nonprofit organization dedicated to sharing with the community the many benefits of a vegetarian diet. Free monthly meetings include vegetarian experts found locally and on the mainland, quick and easy cooking demonstrations, and healthful and delicious food samples. Members enjoy an informative quarterly newsletter, social activities, and discounts at many vegetarian-friendly restaurants and health food stores. For an application, call 944-8344. That's 944-8344. Or visit our website at www.vsh.org. vsh.org.
We'd like to welcome back news journalist Dick Algire. Dick has been a member of and a good friend to the Vegetarian Society for many years. He's a veteran television journalist with over 26 years of experience as a reporter, anchor, and producer. He grew up in Salt Lake City and worked for nearly a decade at stations in Utah. He has worked in Hawaii since 1985 and has been at KITV, the Hawaii ABC network affiliate, since 1988. Dick has been covering health and medicine at KITV for the past 8 years, and his health report is seen nightly on KITV 4 News at 5. He also does general assignment reporting and serves up a Cook Healthy Fast recipe every Tuesday on the 5 p.m. news. He's been honored as the recipient of the Hawaii Medical Association's Distinguished Medical Reporting Award for 5 of the past 6 years. And you probably noticed that we have his Cook Healthy Fast cookbook for sale tonight at our book table. The title of his talk tonight is What's Wrong with Milk? Dick.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. As you heard in the introduction, I'm a reporter. So I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a registered dietitian, I don't do clinical studies. But what I do for my job is I find things out about medicine, and I know how to look and find reports and distill that down and be able to communicate it. So what I'm going to give you here tonight is some of the information that I've discovered about milk, distilled and put in a simple way to understand. I'll tell you a little bit about why I come out here and do this. I don't make any money doing this, and I don't really need to feed my ego that much. I'm on TV, so getting up in front of a small group of people isn't something I really need to do. I do it because I see so much information and misinformation put out by the big money interests. I see so much information out that is not countered with the truth. Yeah, you can take a look at that and let that sink in. Well, every time I go to the grocery store, just about every time at the checkout line, there's always a lady either in front or behind me. And this lady is like a middle-aged lady, and you can tell that she's trying to do the right thing for her health. She'll have a gallon jug of 2%, what she thinks is 2% fat milk, and maybe a couple of packages of yogurt. And this lady thinks that she's making her bones strong, and she thinks that she's eating a very healthful and nutritious food when she gets her yogurt. And I always feel like saying to her in line, do you know? And what I would tell her is what I'm going to present to you tonight. I don't have time to do it in line. It would be rude to pull some lady aside out of the supermarket line and say, don't eat that, it's not good for you. So I come out to try to spread the word, spread some information that I've found. So why do people drink milk? What's the reason that Americans consume milk? Calcium, of course, right? We've all been told there's a source of calcium that you absolutely need, that you've got to drink your milk to get your calcium. And if you look on the internet, which is an interesting source of information, if you look at the pro-dairy pages on the internet, what you'll find is a lot of milk mustache ads and games and celebrities and, click on the cow and little trivia questions, but very little real scientific evidence. They don't cite any studies. They don't show nutritional analysis. If you look at the websites that urge you not to eat dairy products, you're going to find tons of scientific evidence some of the evidence that I'm going to show you tonight. Cows do not make calcium. If you look at that, calcium in fact comes from leafy green vegetables. That's going to be your best source. Now let's take a look at some analysis here. I'm going to measure various foods, the calcium content, of 100 calories of different foods. So we've got there a glass of milk. 100 calories worth of milk. How much calcium is in that? 194 milligrams, okay? Remember that number, 194 milligrams in 100 calories of milk. If we compare that to 100 calories of, this is Swiss chard, 268 milligrams. 268 versus 194 for milk. So is milk the best source of calcium compared to Swiss chard? No, absolutely not. Broccoli, a little bit less than milk, but it's 171 compared to 194. With the broccoli, you're getting all kinds of vitamins and fiber, and it's low fat and no cholesterol. With the milk, you're getting a load of fat and cholesterol and zero fiber. So eat a little bit more broccoli. You can even get fortified foods like oatmeal, calcium-fortified oatmeal. 100 calories will give you 240 milligrams of calcium. This is spinach. 100 calories worth of spinach will give you 450 milligrams. 450 as opposed to 194. Again, no fat and cholesterol. This one is amazing. Watercress. 100 calories of watercress contains, and this is according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture figures, 1,090 milligrams of calcium. So do you need to drink cow's milk in order to get your calcium? You can eat all kinds of leafy green vegetables, seaweed, anything green is going to be giving you a good source of calcium. Calcium content in an 8-ounce glass of milk as opposed to an 8-ounce glass of orange juice. The milk has 291 milligrams, 93 milligrams are absorbed when you drink it, as opposed to orange juice, 350 milligrams of calcium, 130 absorbed. So when they say drink 3 glasses of milk a day to get your calcium, why not drink 3 glasses of orange juice, which doesn't have fat and cholesterol? The dairy industry, lies, lies, lies. Here's one of the biggest lies, and when I see the woman in the checkout stand with her allegedly 2% fat milk, 2% fat is 2% by weight, not by calorie. 2% fat milk gets 35% of its calories from fat. So 2% fat milk is not a low-fat product. It's a high-fat product. It's 35% fat. If I took a glass of water right here, it would have no calories, no cholesterol, no fat. It's just water. It's 0, 0. If I plopped in a big hunk of butter, if you drank that water, all of your calories would come from fat. Yet, by weight, it might be 2 or 3%. So that's a lie that the dairy industry tells you, is that 2% fat milk is 2% fat. It's 35% fat. Whole milk can be between 49% fat to 50% fat, up to 55% fat. Milk does contain some calcium. You're going to get some calcium if you eat dairy products. But does that protect your bones? Does it ward off osteoporosis? Does it ward off hip fractures? Well, there's an ongoing study, probably the largest epidemiological study ever done, called the Nurses' Health Study. It's been ongoing at Harvard, and they've been following thousands of nurses over many, many years. And they watch what they eat, and then they look at what happens to them. And here's the actual reference. And anytime I cite studies here, there are references. I'm not putting them all up because it's kind of boring, but just believe me that they're here, and I could make them available to you if you wanted to see them. But this is the actual study that was published in the American Journal of Public Health. They found no evidence that drinking milk protects bones. So in all these nurses that were drinking milk, the ones that drank milk didn't get any protection. Those who got calcium from milk, according to this study, had more fractures compared to those who didn't drink milk. The study even said milk is a risk factor for osteoporosis and weak bones, absolutely contrary to what the dairy industry tells us. Why is that? If it has calcium, why doesn't it protect your bones? Because animal protein is high in a kind of protein building block known as sulfur amino acids. Sulfur amino acids. Steak has sulfur amino acids. Cheese, milk, fish, chicken, any type of animal protein has these protein building blocks that contain sulfur, which is the building block of sulfuric acid. You acidify your blood. Your blood has to be alkaline. And what happens is when you take in all this milk and you take in all this cheese and you eat all this steak and you eat all this chicken, is your body gets acidic. And it has to be alkaline. So it takes calcium from your bones to neutralize the acid. So you're actually losing more calcium, they found, when you drink milk than you're able to hold on to. So drinking milk actually helps dissolve your bones, according to this study. Now, taking high doses of calcium, that doesn't slow bone loss because you don't absorb very much of it. The body regulates the absorption of calcium. So if you ingest, say, 800 milligrams of calcium, you may absorb just 15% of that. It's more important to keep the calcium you have. If you eat calcium from leafy green vegetables and a vegetarian source, you need less and you hold on to it. It's also important to exercise, not to smoke, not to drink caffeinated beverages. The studies show that the countries with the largest intake of dairy products have the highest incidence of osteoporosis. They don't tell us that in the milk ads, in the milk mustaches, when they tell us that we need to have strong bones, that countries with the largest intake of dairy products have the highest incidence of osteoporosis. Now, if you look at the native Hawaiians, when Captain Cook came here, he wrote in his journal that the native Hawaiians were strong, tall, big-boned, very healthy people. They had strong bones. They were tall. How much milk did they drink? None. They didn't have any cows here. They drank no milk. If you were to believe the dairy industry, they should have been all bent over and crippled, but it wasn't the case. 75% of humans are lactose intolerant, yet you see these milk mustache ads. There's Spike Lee, African American. Well, most African Americans and Africans can't drink milk. They can't digest it. The same with Asians. There's Christy Yamaguchi. So they're paid a lot of money to do this, but I don't think they're drinking milk because most of them are lactose intolerant. 3/4 of the people on Earth are lactose intolerant. They can't digest milk. They can digest their mother's milk when they're a baby, but then their body changes and they don't have the enzymes to break it down. This one's really interesting. This is the Food Guide Pyramid, and this is put out by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, suggesting the way that we should eat. So they tell us that fats and oils we should use sparingly. And milk, the milk food group, and yogurt, we should have 2 to 3 servings a day. And on, meat, fish, and then vegetables should be the bulk along with the breads and cereals and the whole grains. That, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, is the ideal way Americans eat. Now, according to food scientists, the people that really do the research, that's not true at all. They were not going to include meat and dairy, but the meat and dairy industry said if you put out food recommendations that don't include meat and dairy, we're going to sue you. So they compromised and they went along with the meat and dairy industry, and they did put it at the top of the pyramid. Okay, you got to drink some milk, and you've got to eat some protein. Now let's look at what the real food guide pyramid is. Yet even with this, if you listen to dairy industry ads, if you go to their websites and you listen to their propaganda, they say there's a crisis. Americans aren't getting enough calcium. Americans aren't getting enough calcium. They need to drink more milk. They're not drinking their 3 glasses of milk a day. There's a crisis because they're not getting enough calcium. Now, this is a suggested amount that the government tells us we should eat. I have some statistics from the U.S. Department of Agriculture which indicate what we're really eating, what the real food pyramid looks like according to what people are really eating. And this is it. Americans are consuming about 40% of their diet is dairy products. Now, how can the dairy industry say you're not getting enough calcium if people are eating a whopping 40% of their calories from dairy? And they're meat and chicken, and then the good stuff is absolutely upside down here. And you wonder why Americans are all sick and overweight. You all know about the health benefits of bacon, right? That's a good health food. You all know how good bacon is for you. Okay, going back to that upside down pyramid, with our Americans consuming an average about 40 ounces of dairy products every day. We go to Pizza Hut and all the pizza places with the cheese in the crust and the extra cheese and the double cheeseburger and the sour cream and milk and on and on and on, eating about 40 ounces of dairy products. That gives you the same amount of cholesterol as 53 slices of bacon every day. Now people think, oh, okay, I'll eat some cheese, it's good for me, some milk, but it's the same as consuming 53 slices of bacon. Cheese is no good for you. I talk to people in the newsroom and at work, and I tell them, hey, that milk's no good. Yeah, I don't drink milk, they say. I don't drink milk. I don't like it. I know it's no good, but I really like cheese. I eat cheese. Well, if you're eating cheese, you're eating milk, because to make a pound of cheese, it takes 10 pounds of milk. So you're just getting 10 times the milk when you eat cheese. 10 times the bad stuff. Let's look at the fat content of cheddar cheese, 74% fat. American slices, 75% fat. Sour cream is 86% fat. And 80% of milk protein consists of something known as casein. Casein, well, if we were going to glue this podium together right here, that's what they use for a good furniture glue, is casein. Casein is also used to glue the labels on beer bottles. It's a good industrial strength glue. Casein comes from milk protein. Let's look at what it does in your body. Casein is seen by your body as a foreign protein. Your body reacts by creating an antibody. It comes in, your body says, hey, there's an invader here. The antibody-antigen reaction creates histamines. Now, where have we heard about histamines? When you're all mucusy and runny nose and you have allergies, you take an antihistamine. The result of these histamines is mucus and phlegm. People who drink milk and eat cheese get a tremendous amount of mucus and phlegm. Behold, the power of cheese. W.C. Fields said, my illness is due to my doctor's insistence that I drink milk, a whitish fluid they force down helpless babies. Which is kind of funny, but kind of sad. Talk about the first disease that we've linked to dairy products, and this has been called one of the great unreported stories, that this is a major story in medicine that has not been reported. Crohn's disease is a chronic digestive disease, and people that suffer from Crohn's disease have terrible diarrhea and stomach cramps. It's like having the worst stomach flu you've ever had every day of your life. It's really debilitating. It's very sad. It's a terrible disease, Crohn's disease. In cattle, there's Jones disease, which is the same thing, chronic diarrhea. Boy, you'd want a glass of milk from that, wouldn't you? Doesn't that look nice and clean? Good, natural, healthy stuff there, okay? Well, scientists have discovered that Mycobacterium paratuberculosis, and I misspelled that. That has an R that shouldn't be there. I need to edit that out. But Mycobacterium paratuberculosis causes the disease in cattle, and it also causes the disease in humans. Okay? Now it gets scary. You have more cows in less space, and it spreads this disease to the dairy herds. They've discovered that Mycobacterium paratuberculosis can survive pasteurization. They heat up milk, because milk, as it comes out raw, has all kinds of nasty stuff in it, and they heat it up to try to kill the nasty stuff before you drink it. But this Mycobacterium paratuberculosis can survive pasteurization. Milk on store shelves was tested for paratuberculosis. They went out to the store shelves and they took samples, they took it into the lab, and they found it in milk from store shelves. On your dairy case, they found this bacteria that causes this horrible Crohn's disease. Now, you haven't heard about that. The dairy industry's heard about it. This is a quote from a dairy industry newsletter, Milk Science International, a journal, and they said, the present state of knowledge is potentially catastrophic to the dairy industry. The word should get out about that. Okay, on to juvenile diabetes. If you give your child cow's milk, are you dooming them to juvenile diabetes? Well, let's look at the evidence. It's been discovered that dairy protein sparks an autoimmune reaction that destroys insulin-producing cells in the pancreas. So you give babies cow's milk and the autoimmune reaction can destroy the pancreas, which creates the insulin. According to the American Journal of Nutrition, now this is a mainstream scientific journal, this is not some vegetarian, out there on the fringe. This is the American Journal of Nutrition. They say, the higher the consumption of cow's milk, the greater the chance of developing diabetes. The American Academy of Pediatrics, this is the most mainstream. These are the mainstream baby doctors. The avoidance of cow's milk may reduce development of insulin-dependent diabetes. The American Academy of Pediatrics warns, never give cow's milk to an infant. Now I wonder, because this month is the Healthy Baby Contest, sponsored by Medigold, and I covered it last week, last year, and they bring out all these beautiful babies, and they judge which one is the most beautiful, and it's sponsored by a dairy. Yet the American Academy of Pediatrics warns, don't give cow's milk to an infant. They don't tell you that at the Healthy Baby Contest. According to Diabetes Care, the introduction to cow's milk before age 8 is a risk factor for juvenile diabetes. Finland is the country with the highest rate of dairy consumption. Finland has the highest rate of insulin-dependent diabetes. Make the connection? Yet, here's a recent headline. The quest for soy milk in schools is spoiled. The U.S. Department of Agriculture won't allow the schools to serve soy milk. They have to serve cow's milk. Yet, the mainstream medical authorities are saying you shouldn't give cow's milk to kids, that it can cause problems, cause diabetes, yet they're required to give it to them. Boy, something's wrong here. Mother's breast milk is the best thing for babies. Over the years that I've been a medical reporter, I've seen study after study after study come out that mother's milk makes the baby stronger, it helps their immune system, it helps their brain development, on and on and on. So many studies showing mother's milk, human milk, for the first few years is the way to go. It's very, very good for a baby. I cover stories, it seems like every few months, there is the child of the month that has leukemia, and it's sad, we have to have a bone marrow drive for, well, the names go on and on. You've seen them on the news. They have bone marrow drives. They try to find a match for someone who's suffering from leukemia, and they need a bone marrow transplant. Okay, let's look at leukemia. Bovine leukemia is found in 3 out of 5 dairy cows in the United States. Bovine leukemia virus causes leukemia in other animals. So if you get around cows with the bovine leukemia virus and that virus can be passed to other mammals and it can develop leukemia. Milk, of course, is pooled. Now, the leukemia virus, pasteurization does kill it. All right, but accidents happen. There have been cross-contaminations. There have been batches of milk put out that have not been properly pasteurized. If you look at places where they dairy farm, the incidence of leukemia is higher, and milk drinkers have a higher incidence of leukemia. I had a friend who died young of lymphoma, lymphatic cancer. And his mother, of course, gave him milk every day as he grew up. If you drink 2 glasses of milk a day, you have 3.5 times the risk of lymphatic cancer. The science behind that is pretty strong. Okay, let's look at how much milk a cow produces. Back in 1950, your average cow would produce a ton of milk a year, about 2,000 pounds. Now, a cow produces 50,000 pounds of milk a year. How, in that time, have the cows gotten so much more productive? Does that sound natural to you?
No.
No, it's because they give them drugs, antibiotics, and hormones, which are stored in the milk and passed to the milk drinker. Do you want to drink drugs? Do you want to drink antibiotics? And you know, most of the antibiotics produced in this country go to our animals because they're in conditions that are so appalling and so tight that they get sick a lot, so they try to keep them well with antibiotics, and it goes into the food chain. Bovine growth hormone, that's another reason cows produce so much milk. Is that something you want to be drinking? Bovine growth hormone. And here's a scary one, insulin-like growth factor, IGF-1. IGF-1 is a powerful growth hormone. And nature puts a little bit of that in mother's milk because a baby starts out as a little infant and needs to grow up to be a big, strong man, right? Or a nice, big lady. In cows, nature puts a lot of IGF-1 because a little baby calf has to grow up from 70 pounds to about 600 pounds. Bovine IGF-1, here it is identical to human IGF-1. It's the same thing. So when you're drinking milk that is laced with bovine IGF-1, you're getting a powerful growth hormone. What does that do? Say you have a cancer growing inside of you, and most humans do develop cancer at some point in their life. You might get a little bit of breast cancer, a little cancer here or there, but you have an immune system that can take care of it. If you pump IGF-1, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire, and that cancer can go out of control. IGF-1 accelerates the growth of breast cancer cells. That was in the journal Science in 1993. IGF-1 accelerates the growth of breast cancer cells. Dairy plays a role in breast cancer. That's from Cancer Research, another mainstream organization here. Breast cancer, more prevalent in countries where women consume milk, the American Dietetic Association. All of these statements I'm saying have study after study after study behind them. I'm talking now about prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is the same thing. Prostate cancer, men who drink milk have a greater incidence of prostate cancer. Why can I say that? Here's the fine print. All of these studies, I just put up a few of the pages and pages of studies that link milk and dairy products to prostate cancer. The breakdown of galactose produces a carcinogen. So that lady in the line with her yogurt thinks she's eating a health food? Wow. Ovarian cancer is linked to galactose. Women who eat yogurt every day have a 7 times greater risk of ovarian cancer. It's just rotted milk. It's not some health food. Cataracts. Lactose breaks down into glucose and galactose. And there's a byproduct there that they now know is linked to cataracts. Back to the Healthy Baby Contest. Right here it says, got sick kids? Well, milk has been blamed for runny noses, frequent colds, bronchitis, intestinal distress, and ear infections. Ear infections is a big one. There's so many kids in America get these painful ear infections, and the doctors just constantly load them up with antibiotics when all they need to do is take them off the milk. This is an actual picture of an ear infection. There's a bulging eardrum filled with pus right there, and the poor child is in pain and crying. There's a strong link between milk and ear infections. That comes from the Annals of Allergy, the mainstream allergy research journal. 80% of ear infections improved when children stopped drinking cow's milk, again from the Annals of Allergy. So they take the kids off of cow's milk, the ear infections clear up. On to heart disease. Studies show the food most correlated to coronary death is milk. There's a new risk factor for heart disease that has just come out recently, and that is homocysteine. I find it not amusing, but sad when people tell me, well, I drink skim milk. I drink non-fat milk because I get my calcium, and then it doesn't have fat, so I'm not going to get heart disease. Well, let's look at that one. The dairy product, if you consume high dairy protein that's low in B vitamins, and the milk is low in B vitamins, metabolizing protein without B vitamins creates homocysteine, which is the risk factor for heart disease. So just drinking non-fat milk doesn't really protect you. Let's look at what happened to Japan. In Japan, they keep very good records very good health records about who gets what disease and what they're eating. They're very meticulous. In 1950, the per capita dairy consumption in Japan was 5.5 pounds a year. That's really not very much spread out over a year. Americans eat that in a day, not eat 40 ounces, but some people eat close to that. By 1975, it went up to 117 pounds a year. What happened to the health of the Japanese when they started consuming all these dairy products? Heart disease went up by 35%. That's not genetics, because in one generation, genetics can't change that drastically. Heart disease, up. Strokes, up 38%. Remember, we just showed you the slides that said the dairy is linked to breast cancer. In Japan, breast cancer went up 77%. That's a huge, huge abnormal increase that matches the milk consumption. Puberty. In Japan in 1950, back when they were consuming 5.5 pounds a year, the girls reached puberty when they were 15 years old. By 1975, as the milk consumption went up, it was 12 years. In America today, little girls are having babies at age 8. I mean, it's just terrible what's happening. You look at girls in junior high, they're fully developed women now, and they're not ready to handle that. So, growth hormones, breeding, and unnatural milking schedules cause the udders of the cow. That's a very unnatural udder, painful right there. Painful infected udder. I want to apologize. I'm going to be gross here for a minute. Say I had a nice, warm, or nice, cool glass of milk right there, refreshing glass of milk. And I had a big pimple on my face that was just about ready to pop. And if I popped that pimple into that glass of milk, would you drink it? The FDA allows 750 million pus cells in every liter of milk because the cow's udders are infected, they're pussy, and they cannot produce milk without getting a certain amount of white blood cells, pus, into the milk. So when you're drinking milk, yum. Remember I told you, behold the power of cheese? One slice of American cheese can contain 468 million pus cells. And a pound of cheese may contain 7.5 billion pus cells. Yum. The pesticides concentrate in fat, so as it goes through the food chain and the cows eat the pesticides, it's stored in the fat. People say to me, you're a vegetarian, you eat vegetables, they spray the vegetables, you're getting a lot of pesticides. Actually, you can wash them off, the vegetables, but you can't wash it out of the milk where it's stored in the fat, the milk. The FDA tested some milk and they found 51% of the samples they tested had drug traces, so drink your drugs in the milk. Now, how do cows produce milk? Well, cows give birth every year to give their milk. They have to be pregnant. The milk is for the baby cow, according to nature. So, when a cow has a calf, what happens to the calf so that the cow can be milked to give humans? They're put into veal crates. They're kept alive for a little while, the boys are. The boys are kept alive in these veal crates and turned into veal. They live a few short weeks. I went out and covered this story at the Children Petting Zoo. You can go over and see this for yourself. I was covering the Lani Moo. The local dairy has their cow, that's their mascot, and they were going to name the cow Lani Moo, and they had some children come up with names, and they had this girl named the cow. And when this 11-year-old girl came out, they gave her a year's supply of milk. She was about as big as me. She's 11 years old, and I swear to God, she weighed probably as much as me. She was as tall as me because she grew up on milk. She had all those growth hormones. 11 years old, hulking young woman. But as I watched the ceremony, I kept my mouth shut. I didn't say anything. I just covered it and did the story straight and didn't bring any of this up. But I noticed on the walls of the petting zoo this idyllic scene. They show a pasture with all the happy cows out there. We're going to get to give milk. We're here in the green pasture with the trees. We're having a lovely time being dairy cows. This is what a dairy really looks like. I don't see the trees or the happy cows. If you look closer on that little mural out at the petting zoo, You'll see the little baby cows, they're dancing, the calves are so happy. We're just so happy to be part of the farm and part of the dairy process here. And this is what it really looks like, is the dead calves. What happens to the worn out cows? Give the milk. In nature, a cow might live to be 25 years old. In a dairy, a cow might live 2, 3, 4 years. So when they're worn out from giving milk constantly, what happens to them? They go to McDonald's. Yeah, it's not really funny. They go by way of the slaughterhouse. They're slaughtered after they're worn out. They're turned into hamburger. There's the baby calf just look at that, poor cute little thing, in a veal crate, torn away from its mother and put in a box. There's another picture. I mean, that's the face of dairy right there. That's what it looks like. You know, that's not the beautiful pasture. Every dairy cow produces 120 pounds of waste every day. What you see here is a farm, and there is this huge sewage lagoon. Dairy farms don't have sewage systems. They don't have treatment plants. They just put it in big pools. And this gets down into our water supply. And the runoff from dairy farms is literally poisoning our water supply. You think it just happens on the mainland? There's the filth lagoon out at Waimanalo. I was swimming on the beach one day at Waimanalo after it had rained, and the ocean water wasn't blue, turquoise, beautiful Hawaii water. It was brown. And I didn't know why is the water so brown? It was because the dairy cesspool, it overflowed into the ocean. And there's my last picture of a dairy cow. So, you go back to the source of calcium is leafy green vegetables, and it's much, much better to get your calcium there. Exercise, avoid soft drinks, don't smoke, and your bones will be okay. A vegetarian diet promotes the health of your bones. Just as a personal testimonial, I gave up all dairy products about 12 years ago. I read labels meticulously. I look at the label, and if it has whey, casein, lactose, any of those buzzwords that come from dairy, I don't eat it. I won't eat a speck of it. And I feel so much better. I don't have all that phlegm. Matter of fact, now, my body's so clean that if I get a little bit of milk, it makes me sick. I get phlegm, or I find myself coming down with a cold. This is something that's not been tested, and somebody should do a study. I don't know where they'd come up with the money for it, because the dairy industry wouldn't fund it, but those of us that are vegans know that if we accidentally get some milk or dairy products, we come down with a cold about 2 or 3 days later. This always happens. Don't you? Those of you that are vegans agree? Yep. Okay, so that's my story. I don't think milk does a body good. And I've got some cookbooks over there that are some of the best recipes that Ruby and I have done over the years. And they're all dairy-free and all healthy, low-fat, and high in fiber, and lots of vegetables. You can catch me, if you don't see me on TV, I'm there every day at 5 o'clock, and my recipe segment is on every Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Cook Healthy Fast, and we pass out recipes, and we show you. I'm not a very good cook, but I just show you things that are real easy, like just a few ingredients that if I can make it, anybody can, and tastes pretty good, and it'll help you get healthy. I feel much, much better on this diet. The question was, he bought some calcium pills, and there was lead in the calcium. Certainly lead isn't something you'd want to ingest. As I pointed out in the presentation, just because you take a big amount of calcium, it doesn't mean that you're going to absorb it. The reason the government tells you that you need like 1,500 milligrams of calcium a day is because they know Americans are eating so much protein. If you stop eating so much protein, animal protein, and just get your protein from vegetables, you don't need this huge load of calcium. You'll get the calcium you need from your romaine lettuce and your broccoli and your spinach, your sesame seeds, your tofu, and your orange juice, and your fresh vegetables. So there really should be no reason to take a calcium supplement. if you're eating a healthy diet and that's a vegetarian vegan diet.
That's probably oyster shell.
Oh, Dr. Harris tells me that supplement is probably made of oyster shells, so the lead would come from the oyster. Yeah. Why would you think it would be natural that you would need, in order to be a healthy human being, to ground up oyster shells and take them? I mean, that's not, human beings didn't evolve gnawing on oyster shells. Osteoporosis is not caused by a deficiency of oyster shells in your diet. I wouldn't think. Whey is from milk. Personally, I don't take any part of it. Clarified butter, whey. You're trying to drink that for protein? Yeah, the whey powder. I see that as whey powder as protein powder. Americans are so obsessed with protein. They think they need all this protein. You don't need... I only eat grains and vegetables. Do I look like... I surf, I do triathlons, I can go run 5 miles. You don't need that much protein. You only need a little bit of protein every day. So you get all that and that's a whole other lecture that we've all done before, but you just need a little bit of protein. So no, you don't need whey. My average diet. Okay. I make a product called Gee Whiz. It's a can of Great Northern beans, or any white beans, cannellini beans, any kind of white beans. 3 tablespoons of tahini, which is sesame powder. 6 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, a half a cup of roasted bell peppers or pimentos, a little bit of salt, a little bit of onion powder, 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, a little bit of yellow mustard. I put that in a food processor and it makes a cheese spread. It's very low in fat, it's very nutritious. I call that Gee Whiz. I always keep a Tupperware container of Gee Whiz in my refrigerator. So when I get up in the morning, here's what I eat. I have the best wife in the world. My wife gets up and she makes me whole wheat, whole grain toast with Gee Whiz spread on it. And then she cuts up fruit, like a half a papaya, some kiwi fruit, either some cherries or cantaloupe or Korean melon. So 3 or 4 types of fruit, like 5 servings of fruit for breakfast. So I eat a piece of toast, a little bit of fried rice, and this toast for my breakfast. For lunch today, I went to Pho Saigon, the Vietnamese restaurant on Keomoku Street. I had stir-fried vegetables and tofu with jasmine rice. Today for dinner, I had vegetarian spaghetti sauce over pasta with Eve's brand veggie sausage. And then tonight, I'll eat some air-popped popcorn with a little bit of hot pepper and Bragg's aminos on it. So I'll make wraps out of spinach tortillas with romaine lettuce and a little vegan salad dressing, and I'll throw in some brown rice and some vegetarian chicken or turkey. I eat a lot of veggie chili. I eat a lot of Thai food. So basically every morning, I also have a glass of juice from the juice man. So breakfast is juice, fresh juice, carrot, celery, tomato, spinach, with a little bit of this Gee Whiz spread and some fruit. And then lunch is just basically rice and vegetables most days. And then dinner is a lot of times pasta or vegetarian sandwich, veggie chili. Pardon me? Coffee. I don't drink coffee, no. The wheat? Gluten? I don't have a problem with gluten. I don't know. Some people do, but I don't. So it's always best if you're eating whole wheat and whole grains. That's probably the worst thing in my diet is processed grains, because I'll eat spaghetti and pasta that's been processed. So that's my shortcoming. Is whey is protein from the? It's one of the protein components in the milk. Yeah, if there is dairy, and just if you look, so many foods have casein or have whey or have. I used to eat this cheese that I thought was vegetarian cheese, right? No dairy. It has lactose in it, so it's in so many products. You really have to be very careful. Colostrum, milk is. Cow's milk is the lactating secretion of a barnyard animal, right? And colostrum is the first secretion that comes out, just the raw stuff. And it's good stuff for a calf. If you're a baby infant, when it comes from your mother, it's great stuff for a baby. But mixing species body fluids is just. I mean, they were on. Your children were on breast milk for 1 year, and then what? The nutritionist said go to cow's milk. The pediatrician, because the information that he got, the training that he got, was paid for probably by the dairy industry, the American Dietetic Association, the nutritionist. Most of the educational material they get, all the glossy pictures and all the information, comes from the dairy industry, because the dairy industry has billions of dollars. And so they're training the people that are telling you. They're not trained in nutrition at all, but they're given some glossy handouts from the dairy industry. So that's why. But they're getting smarter. Now the Academy of Pediatrics says don't give cow's milk to them. One more right here. Oh yeah, thanks. I forgot. That's how I was going to end the thing. I was like, what do I use on cereal? There's soy milk. There's Rice Dream. And all the stores have it now. It's great stuff. You can go to Foodland and Safeway and all the Star Market, and you can get soy milk. For me, soy milk is a little thick and brownish. I like Rice Dream. Rice Dream is good stuff. Try that out. I mean, put that on your cereal. You can make soups out of it. It's good stuff. And it's got calcium in it too. Carrot juice? Yeah, I drink carrot juice every day. Loaded with nutrition. Oh, and do this. Put a carrot out on your counter here in Hawaii for a day or two. And put a glass of milk out on your counter here in Hawaii for a day or two. And see which one is more appealing after 2 days in the heat. The carrot might get shriveled a little bit, but inside it's still a carrot. That milk is going to be disgusting. Every time I say something about milk on TV, just at the end of a story, like we might do a story on juvenile diabetes, and I'll just turn to Gary Sprinkle and say, there's mounting evidence. There are some studies that show that this linking milk to diabetes. We'll get a letter from the dairy industry. You said this, and now and kind of a warning. We're watching you. So I gave this slide presentation to my news director today before I came here. I practiced it on him, and he was like, wow, I didn't know all that. So maybe I was hoping that he would go, wow, you should do some stories on some of that. I'm just trying to not cause too much trouble, because they're such strong advertisers that to put this over the air, you really have to be able to sit down. I've been talking for over an hour now. In a TV newscast, a health report, I get a minute and a half or 2 minutes. It's hard to get the information over, so I try to do it little by little. Yeah. The comment was we should start educating the children. We should, because they're bombarded with commercials. They're bombarded by the fast food industry. Well, not only that, the U.S. Department of Agriculture has so much excess cheese that they give it away to the school program. So they're giving it to the schools to give to our children. And the children are getting more and more obese. I'm a baseball fan. Darryl Kyle, in his 30s, he died of a heart attack. First symptom of a heart attack in 50% of the cases is sudden death. And here's a man you think would be so healthy because he's a professional athlete, yet his arteries were blocked. Because he grew up eating the American diet, drinking a lot of milk, eating a lot of cheese, eating a lot of steaks. She's a MD, a gynecologist, saying the boys are getting breasts and the girls are reaching puberty, as I showed. What's really sad is what that will translate into healthcare costs farther on down the road. All our children are eating such a poor diet, and they're not getting exercise, and we're going to want them to take care of us when we're old, but Medicare is just going to be bankrupt. Okay, thank you all for coming. If anybody wants me to sign a book, I'll sign it over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. That was so wonderful, wonderfully presented. I'd like to thank Robert and Jeannie Moses and Roger Camilla for setting up the room. If you could help out, if you're able to, by putting your chairs back on the racks, that would be great. Thank you for coming.
And please exit through the kitchen. Through the kitchen, they have the food there.
Thanks a lot for coming.
This program is brought to you by the Vegetarian Society of Hawaii, a nonprofit organization dedicated to sharing with the community the many benefits of a vegetarian diet. 3 monthly meetings include vegetarian experts found locally and on the mainland, quick and easy cooking demonstrations, and healthful and delicious food samples. Members enjoy an informative quarterly newsletter, social activities, and discounts at many vegetarian-friendly restaurants and health food stores. For an application, call 944-8344. That's 944-8344, or visit our website at www.vsh.org. vsh.org.